What if I told you that one of the biggest financial shake-ups in modern times could be just around the corner, and that this shift might put life-changing wealth into the hands of ordinary people who have been patiently waiting? Today, we're diving deep into the Iraqi dinars and IQD and Vietnamese dong of VND revaluation story. For years, investors, analysts, and regular people across the world have followed these currencies with hope, doubt, and curiosity. Now, the latest developments are pointing to something extraordinary, a possible revaluation that could bring huge payouts. This isn't just another rumor or casual talk in online forums. What we are seeing today are signs from governments, central banks, and international institutions that suggest serious preparations are underway. Imagine holding stacks of currency that, with the stroke of a pen or a change in policy, could suddenly be worth many times more than they are today. That's the potential we're exploring, and it's why you'll want to stay with me all the way to the end. The first point we need to cover is the atmosphere around the Iraqi dinar. For years, the IQD has been trapped under sanctions, instability, and an economy heavily dependent on oil. But the story is changing fast in 2025. Iraq's oil production is climbing, foreign reserves are stabilizing, and more importantly, international institutions are working hand in hand with Iraq's financial authorities. Recently, new banking regulations have been put into place, and technology systems inside Iraq's banks are being upgraded to align with global standards. These upgrades don't happen without a reason. They cost millions of dollars and take years of planning. The fact that Iraq is investing so heavily into this process suggests that the country is preparing for a stronger financial role in the world economy. If you've been following the IQD, you know that revaluation requires infrastructure, stability, and international cooperation. And right now, Iraq is ticking all three boxes at the same time. But Iraq is not the only player in this story. The Vietnamese dong or VND has also been the subject of speculation for years. Vietnam has been making rapid economic progress, shifting from the developing nation into one of Southeast Asia's fastest growing economies. Global trade deals, foreign investments, and a strong manufacturing base are pushing Vietnam to the center of attention. Just like Iraq, Vietnam has been modernizing its banking systems, aligning with international standards, and working closely with global partners to stabilize its currency environment. The whispers on the VND revaluation are not new, but when you connect them with the current international financial climate, the possibility becomes much more real. Imagine the shockwaves if both the IQD and VND were adjusted in value within a close time frame. The combined effect could create one of the largest wealth transfers of our lifetime, and it's why so many investors are paying close attention. Let's focus on what is happening behind the scenes in Iraq. Officials have recently made more public statements about currency reform than ever before. Normally, central banks stay quiet about such matters, preferring to operate in secrecy until a decision is final. But this year, we've seen a clear shift. Iraqi leaders are openly discussing monetary reform, strengthening their banking sector, and restoring confidence in their national currency. These are not empty promises. Iraq has been working with the U.S. Treasury and other international bodies to stabilize its monetary system. When you see a country that has long struggled with economic instability suddenly pushing reforms this aggressively, it often signals that change is near. Just as Kuwait restored its dinar after the Gulf War, Iraq appears to be preparing for a similar comeback story, one that could reintroduce the IQD as a strong player in the region and beyond. Now let's take a moment to talk about timing. Many skeptics point out that revaluation rumors have been floating around for over a decade, with no big event happening yet. That's true, but timing is everything. You can't simply wake up one day and decide to multiply the value of your currency overnight without the proper structure in place. The difference in 2025 is that Iraq and Vietnam both appear ready. Iraq's economy is far more stable today than it was even 5 years ago. Oil exports are steady, infrastructure projects are growing, and international businesses are re-entering the country. Vietnam, meanwhile, is riding a wave of international trade, digital transformation, and investment confidence. Both nations have spent years building toward this moment. The long delays that frustrated investors in the past may actually have been necessary steps in preparation for the financial shift that could now be within reach. Another factor to consider is the international environment. Global powers and financial institutions are carefully watching Iraq and Vietnam. For Iraq, we know that the International Monetary Fund and World Bank have been directly involved in supporting reforms, debt management, and infrastructure upgrades. For Vietnam, global trade partners in Asia, Europe, and the US are deeply invested in seeing the country thrive. This isn't a story of two countries acting in isolation, it's a coordinated global effort. And here's why that matters. A revaluation cannot succeed if the world is not ready to accept the new currency value. The fact that Iraq and Vietnam are both aligning themselves so closely with international financial bodies shows us that they are laying the groundwork for global recognition when that change comes. This global partnership makes the possibility of a revaluation much stronger than just local government decisions. Now, let's get into the specific signals that many experts point to as evidence of what might be coming soon. First, the frequency of government and central bank statements about currency reform has increased significantly. Second, both Iraq and Vietnam have been upgrading their digital banking infrastructure, making them compatible with international systems. Third, new regulations for foreign investors have been introduced in both countries, making it easier for businesses worldwide to engage with their economies. And fourth, there has been unusual activity in foreign exchange markets, with institutional investors showing increased interest in both the IQD and VND. None of these signals alone would prove that a revaluation is imminent, but when you put them together, the picture becomes much more convincing. These are not random moves, they appear to be part of a coordinated and carefully timed plan. Of course, we need to address the risks. Nothing in financial markets is guaranteed, and the same applies here. Revaluation depends on political stability, economic conditions, and international agreements. Iraq still faces challenges with internal politics, and Vietnam must continue balancing its rapid growth with currency management. Investors should always approach opportunities like this with caution and avoid risking money they cannot afford to lose. However, the current level of preparation and international involvement makes this moment stand out from the countless rumors of the past. For the first time in years, we're seeing concrete steps being taken that go far beyond talk, and that's why many believe we could finally be on the edge of a breakthrough that has been anticipated for so long. Let's return to the Iraqi dinar for a deeper look. Iraq has been aggressively modernizing its economy, not just through oil, but through investments in technology, education, and infrastructure. The government has also been working on trade agreements with neighboring countries and global partners. These agreements are not just political theater, they are laying the foundation for Iraq to re-enter the global economy as a serious player. The Central Bank of Iraq has been upgrading its technology systems in partnership with international companies, ensuring that when the time comes, their banks can handle the massive changes a revaluation would bring. In the past, Iraq's instability made such changes unthinkable. But today, with a growing economy, international support, and stronger institutions, the path looks clearer than ever. Vietnam's story is equally compelling. Nam has transformed itself from a low-income, war-torn country into one of the fastest-growing economies in Asia. Manufacturing, exports, and foreign investment are at record highs. The country has signed multiple international trade agreements, making it a central hub for production and trade. This rapid economic rise has put pressure on Vietnam's currency to eventually reflect its true economic strength. For years, the Vietnamese dong has been undervalued relative to the country's actual economic output. Many experts believe that a revaluation or currency adjustment is inevitable as Vietnam continues to modernize and integrate into the global financial system. The question is not whether Vietnam has the capacity for a stronger currency, But when global conditions and domestic readiness align for that change to take place, we can't ignore the role of oil in Iraq's economy. Oil revenues make up the majority of Iraq's income, and in 2025, the market has been relatively stable. Iraq's oil production is increasing steadily, and with higher global demand, this gives the Iraqi government the confidence to stabilize its currency. Oil is the backbone of Iraq's financial strength, and stable revenues are a critical piece of the puzzle for any revaluation. In addition to oil, Iraq has been working on diversifying its economy with infrastructure and agriculture projects. This diversification helps reduce dependence on a single sector, further increasing economic stability. When a country reaches this point of consistent revenue and economic expansion, the ability to support a stronger currency becomes much more realistic. In Vietnam's case, the strength comes not from oil, but from trade and manufacturing. Vietnam has become a global hub for electronics, clothing, and technology production. Companies from the US, South Korea, Japan, and Europe have set up massive operations in Vietnam, making it one of the most important supply chain players in the world. This surge of global investment and trade activity has created huge demand for a stable and respected currency. Vietnam's government knows that in order to continue attracting international investors, they need to eventually align the value of the dong with its real economic strength. The ongoing reforms in banking and trade policy show us that Vietnam is preparing for this shift carefully, making sure the country is ready when the time comes. Let's discuss the psychological impact. Millions of people worldwide are holding IQD and VND, waiting for this life-changing event. Some have been waiting for over a decade, holding on to the hope of massive returns. This anticipation has created both excitement and skepticism. Skeptics argue that people are simply chasing a dream, while believers point to the hard evidence we've outlined today. If and when a revaluation does occur, the financial and emotional impact will be huge. For holders of these currencies, it could mean paying off debts, buying homes, funding education, or even retiring early. This isn't just about numbers on a chart. It's about real lives being transformed by a long-awaited financial shift. Another critical factor is regional support. Neighboring countries in both the Middle East and Southeast Asia are watching Iraq and Vietnam very closely. In Iraq's case, regional powers have shown interest in increased trade and partnerships. This creates a supportive environment for any future currency changes. For Vietnam, its role in the Association of South Asian Nations, ASEAN, ensures that any shift in the dong's value will be supported by strong regional trade partners. These regional connections provide a safety net, making it easier for both Iraq and Vietnam to introduce stronger currencies without destabilizing their economies. Regional acceptance is often just as important as global acceptance, and both nations seem to be building that foundation carefully. Now let's talk about the mechanics of a possible revaluation. If the Iraqi dinar or Vietnamese dong were to revalue, it wouldn't necessarily happen overnight in a dramatic fashion, although that is the hope of many. More likely, it could be a staged process, with gradual adjustments in value backed by strong reserves and economic performance. However, history shows us that sudden revaluations are also possible, as we saw with Kuwait after the Gulf War. Either way, the key point is that both Iraq and Vietnam appear to have reached a point of readiness. They have the resources, the infrastructure, and the international support necessary to make such a move successful. The groundwork has been laid, and that's why speculation about timing is heating up once again. We also need to remember that currency value is not only an economic decision but also a political one. Leaders in Iraq and Vietnam must feel confident that they can maintain stability after a revaluation. Political will, therefore, is just as important as economic readiness. In recent months, we have seen more confident statements from both governments about their financial positions. This confidence is a sign that they believe they are ready to handle the challenges that come with a revaluation. Without this political certainty, the risk would be too high. The fact that these countries are speaking more openly about monetary reforms suggests they are nearing a decision point. So, What does this mean for you, the investor, the holder of IQD or VND, or simply someone curious about global finance? It means we are living in a time when two currencies, long dismissed as unstable or undervalued, may be on the verge of reintroducing themselves to the world in a powerful way. It means that patience could finally be rewarded, and that those who held on to hope for years might see their dreams realized. At the same time, it means exercising caution, staying informed, and preparing yourself for multiple scenarios. Whether the payout is massive or more modest, the opportunity is real, and it is closer than it has ever been before. As we wrap up today's report, remember this: the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong revaluation story is not just about money. It's about history, resilience, and transformation. Iraq is rising from years of conflict with a determination to strengthen its economy. Vietnam is building on decades of growth to take its rightful place on the world stage. Both nations are showing the signs of readiness that investors have been waiting for. The combination of international cooperation, economic progress, and political will make 2025 a year to watch closely. Stay informed, stay patient, and stay prepared, because the financial world may be on the verge of witnessing one of the most remarkable shifts of our time.